Welcome to the Capital News. I'm your host, Alex Koritis. Today is Monday, January 18th, 2021. Thank you so much for joining me. Hope you all enjoyed your weekend. The title of today's podcast, Make Peace, Not War. This is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, so this is sort of paying some respects to him. But it's also a message because, as I've been stating here since last year, there is just a ton of dry kindling all over the place, not just in this country, but globally. And all it's going to take is a very, very small spark to ignite a nuclear weapon, to ignite a domino effect that goes around the globe very, very quickly. We have governments on the verge of collapse. We have the Italian government in disarray. This has been the case, but now it's back on the front page. We have an exchange and a change in hands of power in Germany. Chancellor Angela Merkel has been in power for God knows how long. She's finally stepping aside. So how is that transfer of power going to take place? How are the German people going to vote? What's going to happen there? You still have the Brexit mess. I know things have gotten a little bit smoother. Some deals have been signed, this, that, and the other, but there is still a ton of uncertainty. In the backdrop with all of these really, really restrictive lockdowns that the UK government has placed on their country, it's really insulting to those people. But of course, that's supposedly where the new COVID-19 strain came from. So now that too is making its way around the globe. So apparently this virus has ears, because as soon as the vaccines made it to the market, well, wouldn't you know, lo and behold, there is a new dangerous strain of COVID-19 that is even more contagious. So are these vaccines, which haven't even been fully vetted and proven, are they going to be effective against this new strain? I mean, I guess we can hope so, but I'm doubtful of that fact. And of course, that strain has been documented, so they say, that it's been found in the United States coast to coast, and it's global too. So that'll be another excuse that justifies to these people, these lunatic, out-of-control governments now, for further lockdowns, just completely decimating the economy, especially small businesses. And of course, at least speaking here from the United States standpoint, with Nobody Cares Act 1.0, 2.0, and now 3.0 coming down the pike, very little assistance, if any, to small businesses. We know this because this is what is reported out of the government. We know this because this is what comes out of the mouth of Jay Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, when he's asked questions about the Main Street lending facility. Oh, well, the banks weren't making enough money giving to small businesses, so they weren't going to do it, and they're afraid that these small businesses have too much debt as it is, and they're not going to be able to pay it off. So they're just going to keep the money, and then they'll play with it within their own personal piggy bank. That's what's actually going on. These small businesses are getting little to no support whatsoever. Now, they'll tell you it's the CARES Act. We care, and that's who we're trying to focus our efforts on. But as I've stated here, it's the Nobody CARES Act. Pay attention to where the money goes. Now, the sad thing is, in that little story there, the banks are actually making a valid point. A lot of small businesses, unfortunately, do have too much debt, and a lot of them would be unable to pay back any type of assistance that those banks would give to them. That's true. That's part of the problem. They are part of small businesses, mid-sized businesses, large corporations. It does not matter. All contribute to this zombie society, this zombie economy. The solution is for these businesses to restructure, go out of business, merge, what have you. That's part of the solution. Propping these businesses up, turning them into zombies, or allowing these zombies to continue on roaming the countryside is not the solution. It steals from future prosperity. It robs good entrepreneurs and strong businesses from growing their business and gaining market share, because those weaker businesses would go out of business. They'd close their doors, so now that market share can be gained by those who know how to manage a company. That's how it's supposed to work. It's not kicking a man down for him to necessarily close his business. That's a learning experience. Yeah, it's a rough one. It's not easy. And of course, it's easier for me to say that sitting here, but that's how it's supposed to work. because keeping these poorly run businesses alive with all of this debt accumulation on top of more debt now is only going to make things worse for those looking for work and for those looking for any type of real sustainable economic growth, which of course we do not have because of these asinine policies that they continue to float out there and to implement. The government picks the winners. The government picks the losers. We know who the winners are. They're few, and we know who the losers are. They're many. That's why I've been dead set against all of these bailouts from day one, for everybody and for every cause. You cannot do this because this is exactly what happens. And I told you before Nobody Cares Act 1.0, it was not just going to be the Nobody Cares Act, that there was going to be multiple versions of that type of legislation to the tunes of hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars. And that is exactly what we continue to witness, and is exactly what we're going to continue to see after the Biden-Harris administration is sworn in and roll up their sleeves and attempt to look like they're getting to work. It is only going to get worse from here. Much, much worse. And having Donald Trump in there wouldn't have made much of a difference because this has been a disaster under his watch as well. There has been no drainage of the swamp. They have not drained the kiddie pool. They haven't drained the toilet. Okay? Military-industrial complex, getting more money than ever before. The Federal Reserve is out of control. No checks, no balances on them. $1 trillion deficits before COVID-19. National security state that is still huge, enormous, and no oversight. So give me a break. I mean, what is the swamp then to you? You're going to have to define it, because that's the swamp to me. Hasn't been dented. And in fact, by all of those metrics, they're more powerful now than they were 4 years ago. All right. And it's only going to get worse because there is no responsibility, no accountability, and nobody even knows that these people are stealing trillions of dollars from us, we the people, because you're too focused on all of the looting of the Macy's and the Foot Lockers that took place over the summer, which, rightly so, you pay attention to it and you condemn it. That's a few $1,000s here or there in damage. I don't like it. Lock them up, hold them to account, due process, everything. But if you're going to focus somewhere, you might want to focus more on the trillions of dollars being stolen from us as opposed to a couple pairs of shoes. That's my take on it. If you'd rather focus on the shoes and the Macy's and the whatever else, that's your business. It's perfectly fine to do so. But I'm just saying it might be better suited to focus on the billions and trillions of dollars that are being robbed right in front of us. Right in front of us. Going to the largest corporations in the world. They do not need it, but they're bailed out. There's a backstop. Federal Reserve's buying their debt outright, or they're buying the debt from those who hold their debt if they want to. It's complete anarchy out there, and nobody says a thing. In fact, if somebody does say something to these people, the Federal Reserve and others, they congratulate them. They applaud them. They thank them for, quote unquote, saving the economy. They've destroyed the economy. They've broken your legs, and they've given you crutches, and they said, look, without me, man, you couldn't stand up, you couldn't walk. But didn't you break my legs? No, that wasn't me. That was some other guy. Might look like me, but it wasn't me. I gave you the crutches. See how lucky you are to have me as your buddy? Time and time again, this continues to happen. It's rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. And they can do it because they can get away with it. Because everybody is siloed in. Everybody's on MSNBC, and that's where they are with their little friends. Everybody's on Fox News, and that's where they stay with their little friends, and nobody can talk to each other. Nobody can talk to each other. There's no civil discussion anymore, which is an insult. On Martin Luther King Jr. Day, absolutely. Nonviolence, civil disobedience, reaching across the aisle, having a conversation with people, standing up for principle. All this stuff has just been shot, just destroyed, just wrecked. And now, this week, inauguration ceremony on Wednesday, January 20th, and we have some 25,000 troops in federal forces around Washington, D.C. It's a disgrace. It's an embarrassment. It's a banana republic. We're supposed to be the example. We're supposed to lead by example, show the rest of the world. Here is a free, fair, open election. Here is a peaceful transfer of power. A significant portion of the country thinks that the election was rigged. The president, the outgoing president of the United States, Donald Trump, is not going to be in attendance for the peaceful transfer of power, which I think is a mistake. But, we can agree to disagree on that. 25,000. As they've been saying on the news, more than what's in Afghanistan, more than what's in Iraq and Syria and all these other places. In Washington, D.C. And of course, you can go down the rabbit hole in speculation, conspiracy theory as to what this really means. Is this overkill? Why so many people? All of the threats and the quote-unquote chatter that the FBI and other intelligence agencies are hearing online and elsewhere about potential threats and armed protests around all 50 state capitals. So, we can go down the rabbit hole. We can play conspiracy theorist here. I really don't like doing that on this podcast, but you can speculate. It makes for interesting conversation. There's 1.5 million other podcasts and shows on YouTube and everywhere else. You can find them easily. But it's like, okay, it's overkill, if you will, in Washington, D.C., but what's the security situation in all 50 state capitals? Is this sort of justification or sort of a setup, if you will, for something not to happen in Washington, D.C., but maybe something happens in one of the state capitals and said, oh, well, they didn't have the requisite security lockdown like they did in Washington, D.C., so now that's the justification. Just like the breaching of the Capitol on January 6th, evidently, that event justifies 25,000 troops, barbed-wired fences, you name it, checkpoints around Washington, D.C. This is ridiculous. This looks like Nazi Germany. Show me your papers. Show me your papers. That's coming too, by the way, especially with these vaccines. Get on an airplane, go into a building, go to a business. Were you vaccinated? Show me your papers. This country is kaput. This country is going down the toilet. It's following so many others. We were the last beacon of hope. And with the economic crunch, with the pandemic, this is just a 1-2 punch with the path and trajectory that we are on. It's a triple whammy. It really is. And of course, when it comes to Martin Luther King, so I want to go off of this too a little bit too. I believe it was his I Have a Dream speech where basically it comes down to he wants his children to be judged by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. To be judged by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. Well, that should be easy peasy, but apparently it isn't. And it's unfortunate because the political party that one would think maybe that really plays all of the race cards and all this stuff would really adhere to that wisdom, to that statement, and other teachings of Dr. King. But they don't. And it really shocks me to a degree, obviously, because I know these people. But look how simple and wise that statement is. Treat my children as a human being. Judge them off of their actions, based off of their character, not the color of their skin. The color of their skin. Melatonin. You're in the desert, you get darker skin. You're in Norway, not so much. You see, that's really all it comes down to at the end of the day. Or is that now an excuse for people? Self-pity. Oh, well, my skin's a certain color, I can't do something. That's ridiculous. That's insulting to all of the people who have the same skin color, who are highly successful. But you have a political party, the Democratic Party, who likes to make everything about race because they like to put people into groups. It's all about identity politics, and that is something that has been splintering the party for years, and it's something that's going to lead to the demise of the Democratic Party. Amen. Can't wait. The GOP has shot themselves in the foot. They're crumbling. They're splintered. They'll be gone. So we got one left, the Democratic Party, with identity politics, with them having the power of the government over the next couple of years. Believe me, they have plenty of rope to hang themselves, and they'll do a beautiful job doing it. So now, hopefully these two parties are kaput. Don't ever have to deal with them again. The question is what rises up in their place. Hopefully it's the Libertarian Party, the fastest growing party in the country. I have asked you for a peaceful revolution here, and something that you can do that I think is really the most peaceful and probably the easiest thing you can do, because you can do it from your home, sitting on your lazy boy, change your voter registration. If you're a Republican, leave them. If you're a Democrat, leave them. Become a libertarian, independent, unaffiliated. Doesn't get any more peaceful than that. You don't even have to say anything to anybody. That's how simple that is. I hope you've done it. Because Dr. King, again, was all about nonviolence and civil disobedience. But there does come a point where there's a breaking point. And I unfortunately think we're getting close to that. Because I have stated this before, but I'm going to repeat it here again. Something that President Kennedy told us, obviously, several decades ago. Those that make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable. That's where we are. We are at a crossroads. We had an election. It's contentious. It led to protests. It led to people breaching the U.S. Capitol. It's leading to 25,000 troops around the U.S. Capitol, making us look like a banana republic, an insult. Now, every country in the world, every dictator, every socialist, every commie, they can all say, look at that. They want to blame us. They want to point and laugh and point the finger at us to say we can't run a country. Look at the United States. They're the laughing stock. 9-foot gates, barbed wire fences, checkpoints, lockdowns, restrictions, And of course, we have the FBI and others investigating and screening all of these troops because, of course, there could be a quote-unquote inside job. Maybe somebody thinks within the ranks that the election was rigged, that they're a huge Trump supporter, or they're just totally against the government, whatever the case might be. And now they got these people locked up. They can't get out. Fences keep people out. They also keep people in. So now, well, maybe it was a setup. Now we got to investigate all these people. We have to screen them. We have to go through their social media. We got to interview all these people over the next few days. It sets up, just like like I stated last time, with respect to the breaching of the U.S. Capitol, it just lends itself for a foreign actor who knows what they're doing, that knows how to handle a firearm, to go in there and do an extreme amount of damage. That completely needs to be investigated. Head to toe. A complete investigation as to how that was able to happen, especially during a joint session of Congress. And who knows if we'll ever get the truth on that. We probably won't, unfortunately. But that's what needs to be focused on here. These are some basic questions. What's going to happen with these 50 state capitals? Washington, D.C. has more spies walking around that city than probably any city on the planet. So it's not hard to believe that somebody was smart enough to put on a pair of blue jeans and a red hat that says "Make America Great Again" and could storm the Capitol building. That's how easy it was 2 Wednesdays ago. That's a very dangerous and scary thought. But it could have happened. Now, getting back to some of the politics of it, as I was stating here with the identity politics, I think it's insulting. I think it's a disgrace, but more insulting than anything else for a lot of people, especially on the left, within the Democratic Party, within the liberal media, to just simply say, well, if you're black, this is how you think. And then they'll break you down even further. If you're a black man, you got to think this way. If you're a black woman, you got to think this way. You're naturally going to vote for this, right? Because you're a black woman. Ah, yes, of course. Insulting. You're Hispanic. Well, you must think this. Just clearly, that's it. You look like you're Hispanic. This must be how you're going to vote. This must be how you think about XYZ, right? Because you're Hispanic. You're gay. You have to think this. You have to support this policy because you're gay. You're bisexual. You belong to this religion. They just want to put you in a group. You are supposed to be a human being. You are an individual. Period. End of story. This country is based off of individual rights. That's how it works. And it just amazes me. And it's so insulting to people of color, because that's really what we're talking about here at the end of the day. People who are extremely successful. I mean, and I'm talking more so from a materialistic wealth standpoint. Obviously, you can define wealth as you want it, how much love you have in your life, your friends, your family, that type of stuff. That's really wealth. But everybody obviously wants to look at the materialistic stuff. So the doctors, the lawyers, professors, teachers, carpenters, small business owners, entertainers across the spectrum, politicians. I mean, where's the systemic racism? Where is it? People of color hold all of these positions, do a very good job in all of these positions. They're CEOs, they're governors, they're senators, they're congressmen, they're presidents of the United States, they're 4-star generals leading troops into battle. I mean, come on. Come on. Are there issues? Of course there are. Does the justice system need reformed? Yes, it certainly does. We got a 2-tier justice system in this country, and it most definitely needs overhauled, to say the least. But systemic means everywhere. And to me, it means pervasive. And when you have people buying albums and going to people's concerts and going to these people's places of business, no, it's just not there. It's just not there. It's a pity party. It's an excuse. It's something that race hustlers like a Jesse Jackson and an Al Sharpton want to use so they can continue lining their pockets. It's a disgrace. It's a shame. And for people to fall into that trap, oh, well, I'm a certain color, I got dark skin, well, there's no way, I have no chance in hell. How destructive that is to those people's human spirit to make something of themselves. Can you read? Can you write? Can you do arithmetic? You can succeed. Might it be a situation in a certain part of the country where you have to work a little bit harder? Well, that's just what you're going to have to do. That goes the same for anybody, regardless of their skin color. It doesn't matter. Some people fall into it. Fall into it. Right place, right time. Everything works for them. They got nothing but tailwinds. Other people, dollar late, dollar, you know what I'm saying, day late, dollar short. That's just how some people are. It just happens. So you got to work a little bit harder. I don't know what else to tell you. The worst thing to do is to make excuses. The worst thing to do is to have a pity party, because that's a lot of wasted energy that you could have been doing something more productive. So I really wish that more people would have listened to that wisdom. I mean, they cite it all the time, but they don't follow it. Judge my children not by the content. Judge them by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. That should be the easiest thing in the world to do, but unfortunately, it's not. And that's something that also continues to get played up in the media. We saw it Black Lives Matter. We saw it with all of the protests, some of those, of course, turning into riots, a lot of destruction of various property, businesses, government, etc. But that's fine. That was fine. That wasn't domestic terrorism. Those were all peaceful protesters. And I've defended them in the past, and I'll defend them again. Most of those people were peaceful protesters. But when you have that many people together, when you have a lot of tensions flaring up, something's going to happen. It doesn't take much for it to break, and it did. And that's where the cameras go. So you have everybody who has a story. Everybody has a side they want to play. The left-wing media wants to downplay it. Fox News, talk radio, they want to upplay it. See, these people are crazy. And then you get, you see what took place a couple Wednesdays ago, and now the shoe's on the other foot. And now the left-wing media, oh, these are domestic terrorists. These people are crazy. Exactly what Fox News and talk radio was saying about Antifa and Black Lives Matter. You see how easy it is to play you? You see how easy it is? Why you have to watch all of the stations, change the channel, or watch none of them. Listen to none of them. That's your option. You either listen to all of them, you flip through all of them, you read everything, or you don't pay attention at all. Because if all you're doing is watching one station or getting that same mantra through, you're brainwashed. End of story. Now you have this. They're all domestic terrorists, according to the left. But talk radio, Fox News, oh, no, they're not. No. That was a small percentage of them. They were infiltrated by Antifa. So the left can easily infiltrate the right, but evidently the right, too stupid or unable to infiltrate the left because they're pushing a narrative too. The left makes money off of this. The right makes money off this. So there's a ton of incentives for people to infiltrate other groups so you can really feed into that narrative. See, we told you this group is going to do this. We told you this group is going to behave like that. See? Not that difficult. Just changing clothes. Blue jeans, red hat. Take them off. Black shirt, black pants. Not that difficult. Playing you like a fiddle. Don't know how many times I have to tell you. And they're doing it by design because it's all about divide and conquer. Because if you're paying attention to this stuff, you are not paying attention to the hundreds of billions and trillions of dollars being looted right out of the U.S. Treasury, right in front of us, right in our faces. And they laugh about it. They laugh about it. Major banks getting bailed out, making huge profits again, backstop by the Federal Reserve, manipulating markets, getting caught, deferred prosecution agreements, paying, they're paying big fines, but they're still making out. Net, they are above. Net, they are profiting. So it literally pays to be a criminal. Crime literally pays for these people. You do a fraction of what they're doing, they're going to lock you up and throw away the key. But no, stay divided when we should be more united than ever for legitimate purposes, for legitimate reasons. There are 1,000,001 legitimate reasons to put our government and our politicians on notice that we aren't going to take this anymore. And we have a national debt that's going to balloon to $49 trillion in 4 years. George Washington to Donald J. Trump in 2019, we had a national debt of $22 trillion. By the time the next president is sworn into office in 2025, what am I saying here, 2025, we're going to have added $22 trillion. This is a death spiral. And there's no end in sight. And it's most likely just going to get worse. Make peace, not war. And the thing is, I think a lot of this is easily foreseeable. I think a lot of people know this. So can we just skip the fighting part? Can we just skip the war part? If we know at the end that the war is going to end at some point because there's just been too much bloodshed, there's been too much loss, there's been too much lost treasure, everything. Can we just skip that part and say, okay, we're just not going to do it because it's not worth it to anybody anywhere. And let's just make peace now. Let's just figure something out. The answer, of course, is yes, we can do that. But human behavior, the psychology of what's going on, history, points me in the other direction, unfortunately. So just be aware of your environment and understand what's going on. This is a sad state of affairs, not just here in the United States, but globally. But the fact that we have 25,000 troops in Washington, D.C. to defend a quote-unquote peaceful transfer of power is ridiculous. It makes us an embarrassment. It makes us a laughingstock. This did not just happen over the last 4 years for those of you who are just obsessed with Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a symptom of this country's decay and decline. He is not the disease. He is a symptom of it. He's a reflection of us in this environment. High hopes for him to have risen above it. He didn't. High hopes for Barack Obama to rise above it in 2008, 2009. Didn't. He failed. So this is what we have. This is what we get. And of course, we the people are to blame for this too, because this is our government. We do vote. We do have a voice in this system. As small as it might be, because it gets drowned out because of all of the money from corporate donors and everything else, we still do have a voice. We still do have a say. But we keep putting the same people in and expecting a different result. That is the definition of insanity. You got to wake up, people. Hashtag fire Congress. Leave these political parties. Become a libertarian, independent, unaffiliated. It's as peaceful as it gets. Make peace, not war. Stay diversified, stay vigilant, and stay with the Capital News. I'm Alex Corritis. Godspeed.